I wish. I wish.
But yeah, it's gone 2 o'clock. Welcome along here, everybody, today. We're going to start with the condolences. I'd just like everyone to stand for a moment for the deaths of Maniototo residents Dawn Graham, Owen Claridge, and Kat O'Neill. Thank you very much. Right, public forum. We've got Amy and Tony speaking. Just Amy.
Whoa, look at them, I guess.
Yes. Amy, you know all of the community here, don't you? And we got Tim, the mayor, Louise Van Hook, the we got Quentin Perrinal here. He's our ward member.
Hi, Quentin. Kia ora koutou. Good to see you guys along too. For Amy Pont Aho, I will sit because there is a little bit of reading. So the idea is that we are wanting to read a letter to you in anticipation that you can hear how it's been for us and what we would like in terms of moving forward in terms of the bridge. So we are writing as households and businesses affected by not only the ongoing issue with all bridges in central Otago, but specifically Scott Lane Bridge and Kyburn. It is actually a vital part of connectivity and wellbeing for our community, and the loss of the bridge is impacting our people adversely. Our residents are primarily concerned with the complete lack of communication from the very beginning when our bridge was washed out. There has been absolutely no direct contact from CODC advising that A, our bridge would remain out of action for a distinct amount of time, and with respectful acknowledgement that this will impact us, and what the plan and options will be going forward. Even 3 media articles gleaned no formal response, links below and attached. The table copy has got those copies. We are concerned that the lack of knowledge has led to the presumption that the bridge is not a priority. There has been no opportunity to share how this has affected us, nor a chance to work together on solutions, and yet more time goes by. The tragic devastation up north has added to the bridge burden Waka Kotahi and local councils face, but that doesn't mean we can't work on solutions. We've realised that the only way to generate some communication with you is via a representation at the local community board meeting, as well as in writing, so we can at least get some of our questions answered. The Kyburn community is more than happy to sit down with whoever we need to and discuss the questions. We request some direct communications from CODC, please. We are also happy to provide a report to you on use of the bridge, but not just our Kyburn residents, but the wider community. Important points to note: vehicles with high wheelbases are crossing Kyburn River frequently. This is only when the weather has been good. Otherwise, they are forced to take the long way round onto Swinburne Back Road, then Hall Road to get out to State Highway 85. This is up to an additional 18 kilometres each way and is a technically busy back road. In winter, snow limits that option. Also, the stability of the ford at Boundary Creek is questionable due to exposed piles. And Tim, I've sent you videos of how that can roar in a flood. Bit of a map there, courtesy of getting an Anuku Outdoor Access Commission. Frequent river crossing is taking its toll on the mechanics. Brake pads rusting and freezing of some of our vehicles. There's been absolutely no effort to improve the crossing in the meantime. A bit of digger and rock work could mean at times some cars could cross. The area is posted towards the river daily, however, 3/4 of the time has to take the long way round, adding 30 minutes to the route. We have examples of emergency and care service issues and negative impact on farming decisions which have occurred since the bridge was washed out. Scott Lane Bridge is not only an important access way for farming operations, but at more than 90 years old, it has historical importance to the local Scott families. The school bus route has been adversely affected, with one student now having to drive in every day. One resident has been requesting the school bus signs be taken down from Kyburn River Road and put on Hall Road, since the traffic on Hall Road and Swinburne Back Road is now so much busier. This has not happened. Most of these following questions were written down back in 2021, but they do still apply. What instructions have engineers been given to base their reports on? What are their reports expected to, when are their reports expected to be tabled? What community consultation will be undertaken as part of these reports? Are they costing and reporting on repairing and replacing the existing bridge? If not, why not? Are they costing and reporting on gravel removal from the true right bank, a primary reason for the bridge washing away? If not, why not? Are they costing and reporting on willow and broom removal upstream or in contact with ORC about this? Are they costing and reporting on a concrete causeway? If so, what are the specifics in width, height, culvert sizes, class and loading, etc.? Are they aware that the community are not envisaging a cut in services based on the price of repairs when the demise of the bridge was brought about by inaction and poor maintenance, lack of gravel, willow, broom and gorse removal, years of putting off bridge pile maintenance, placing of inadequate and under-engineered pile protectors? Why has CODC not put funds aside for this bridge when the piles have been suspect and needed replaced for perhaps 15 to 20 years? The community believe the CODC or any council's core duty is to maintain or improve services to their constituents, not to save costs by reducing our services and infrastructure. We would like to work with CODC and find a solution for retaining our best access route so we can keep our community safe and show visitors who come to enjoy the Kaiben River that our place is cared for. At the moment, the area is disjointed and looks uncared for. Thank you for your time, members of the Kaiben Committee. Got it.
Got it. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks. From the speak to some of those concerns.
I'll just talk first. What's that?
I just note to the chair that we can absolutely respond to all of those queries. So we'll
Right.
respond to each individual one of those and come back to you
That will be
on that.
fantastic. And the time together and discuss it would be great as well, please.
Yes, I feel your pain because we have, as a community group here, been trying very, very hard to get to the bottom of those issues. And thank you for turning up at the community board, and it's been a big turnout here to hear your concerns. We have got a bridge strategy has just been completed. There's a lot of work in it, and obviously we had the Christchurch situation, the flooding in Canterbury, but I'll just give you a couple of statistics. Of the 174 bridges we've got in the region, 47 of them, 27% of the network, are into their useful life. So we have got a bow wave happening in bridging, and to be fair, the council's been relatively poor. They had deferred maintenance 20 odd years ago. It's a decision made by council. So a lot of those questions you've got are very, very valid. The replacement of the bridges for light now is between 27 and 60 million, and the current bridge maintenance of renewals about 660,000 a year, or 7 million over 10 years. So we're looking up to 60 million for replacement of light for light. We're well behind the budgeting fund. On the list, there's 47 of these bridges are deemed critical large spans with no detours of significant rivers. So we've got 47, a bit like yours, but some haven't got access. So these, out of this bridging strategy, these problems have come now, and we have major problems. And I'm not going to blame anyone in particular, but council probably over the last, I think there's been no bridges built in the last 43 years and the deferred maintenance, and it's now catching up with us. So the challenge we have, exactly like your bridge, is we have to start front footing some of this, and that is going to affect long-term plans. We're going through an annual plan now and a long-term plan. But I totally don't think for a moment that this board, everyone in this board, in this room, we've been fighting very, very hard, not just for your bridge, but bridges in the Maniototo in general. But we've got, like I say, 47 bridges at the end of the useful life for the next 10 years of council. So we've got to come up with solutions, and we've got to approve solutions that Wakatahi will fund. And if anything, we've had a failure is we haven't front loaded our infrastructure enough on our road and infrastructure here, and that's been a battle for rural. The TVET's the same, they're saying the same about roading, but it's a big ticket item, and we've got one of the largest roading networks in the world, in the region of district councils. So how are we going to deal with it? We're going to have to come, these projects are going to have to come to us. The strategy report last council meeting, the workshop, was fantastic. Like the report we got was amazing, but now we've got to front foot it, and it's going to be between 30 and 60 million we're going to have to put in the next 10 years just to catch up. And hopefully with the engineering we can roll some of those bridges out or reduce their weight or look at options. So if we're going to have to look at $60 million, we're going to have to look at better ways to spend $60 million. So And they are, trust me, the report that Becky gave us, they are looking at every option. And they're not just closing down bridges either, for that matter.
Publicly available.
Pardon?
Is that report publicly available?
What year?
So through the chair, so we had a workshop with council, tabling approaches for strategies, so that strategy still has to come to council for a decision, and then following that there will be public consultation around the prioritisation, a method of prioritisation around bridge replacements. The workshop tabled the fact that this problem is widespread. Like Stu alluded to, there's 47 bridges coming to the end of their life in the next 10 years, and with that comes a big number of replacement costs. So I don't have the dates of the council meetings, but it's likely to come in the next month, 2 months to council, and that will public consultation will then follow that. So there will be, well, we might not be able to answer all of the questions. Some of those will come back to the decision making following the strategy being presented to council, but answers are coming. And the fact that we had to understand the whole picture before going ahead.
And I think we just want the opportunity to start working on what our solution will be. So perhaps that means that once the opportunity comes to us, we're hitting the ground running, or perhaps your solutions aren't.
We will do everything we
what
can.
We'd like to go with. We'd like to
And that's what.
be part of that process, probably sooner rather than later, because it could take another 3 or 4 years
Well, easily.
to start anything. So we need to do some mahi on what we've got now and not wait for the strategy necessarily. Like maybe, as I suggested, some work on what we've already got in the short term would be at least a start, and being able to maybe start that consultation process with you sooner rather than waiting for a strategy to action.
There's been a lot of cross border. Southland have got more bridges to replace than we've got in total bridges. So, you know, there's a lot of people looking at clever ideas, and I guess that's what out of this we should get hope for different solutions, different places. But there will be some bridges that people are going to go, oh, they fit the purpose. And they could be big bridges. Well, we're not talking just wee bridges like the Godwin, some of them are major bridges. And yeah, so definitely there is a lot of push, and that'll be the focus I'm thinking in the next 5 years or 10 years. Definitely, we've got a lot of infrastructure that has to be caught up with.
Thank you, Stu. Amy, you got anything else to add?
No, I would just, well, if
My name's David Greer, I'm a Cardiff resident. There's 2 issues here. One is fixing the bridge, of course, but the other thing is actually stopping other bridges get washed away, like this one. Because this bridge wasn't washed away by the water. It was washed away with 2 or 3 different contributing factors. The first was that there was logs upstream that somebody had taken out of the river, dock, and stockpiled on the side of the river, which got washed down like battering rams. The other was that the one end of the bridge was filled up with gravel underneath the bridge, which restricted the flow to only half the usable riverbed, basically. And of course, that meant that the flow through that part was a lot deeper and a lot swifter. So there was a bit of maintenance that wasn't done there. The bridge had pile protectors on it, which were railway irons or H irons driven in at each pile. But they were basically not sufficient to do their job. They were under-engineered. It really needed 2 or 3 piles braced up together to have enough strength, because these logs that were coming down the river were like battering rams. And I saw one of those H-frames just go like that when a log come over the top of it. So we also need to make sure that no more bridges get washed away with slash, basically. Because what's happened to this bridge is exactly the same as you've seen on TV up in the North Island from Auckland with the forestry. Especially the same scenario, and it's happening again up there. And it's going to keep happening everywhere unless the council does more to protect bridges. Like removal of willows.
Can I just speak to that? I was at the Otago Regional Roading meeting on Friday in Balfour last week, and that is a major concern across the region. And I had a meeting with the ORC in Naseby last Friday, the other night, and that's a major concern for them as well. And we have got a permit to take gravel out of rivers 50 metres up and below our rivers. And I think that's something the staff are looking very seriously to make sure we do that stuff. And the ORC, if any of the findings that are coming out up north, that's that same sort of slash and cleaning out waterways. So I think everyone's very aware of it, but I'm not sure enough has been done.
Right, thank you, Stu. David, thank you for that, Dave. Amy,
Thank you. I look forward to your reply.
thank you very much for coming in.
Before you close on that, is there any other avenues that we can talk to the people that are put these businesses in place where we can offer maybe solutions or advice? Which can flow either way.
When the bridge strategy comes to council, you'd be most welcome to come to the public forum before that and give the on the ground examples of what your situation's been like, as you've done today. Welcome that. Waka Kotahi, they do have a relationship manager, but they're based in Christchurch. I'm not sure how that would work. Quentin might be able to help with that, given they're paying over half the bill.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Amy. Dave. Very good. Now, just before we go into confirmation of meeting, of minutes of the meetings, I'd just like to introduce, we've got 3 school children here. We've got Becky Brooms here, and there's 3 young ladies here to look at governance meetings. Is that correct, Becky?
That's right, they're doing the community awareness badge and St John Youth this term. So they're learning about governance and how decisions are made in local communities. And we just come to sit in for a little bit, see how ready.
Good to see you here. Yeah. Right, can I have someone move the true and correct record of the last meeting, the meetings of the last minutes of the last meeting, please? Yes. You, Duncan, and a seconder, please. We can call all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Right, just remind members if they feel they have an interest in any of the stuff that we're speaking about, please pick up. Right, annual plan, budget, fees and charges. What have we got there? Susan, how are you?
Me, how are you? Good, thank you.
You've met all, you've met Becky before, have you?
Yeah, indeed. Couple of times. Like the report is being read. Just want to indicate that every 9,300 is 1% on your award rates.
What? 9,300.
So that's the decision making power and the award. So look, we may not be going out for consultation. We are just working through with the group at Waikato at the moment as to whether we actually need to go out for consultation. So essentially, this annual plan is as per the LTP with some unmanageable escalations through inflation. There is obviously a lot of escalation through inflation, but we're trying to manage that within the budget that we've got. The one big thing that's happening is the rollout, Quentin, of the organic bin. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yep, I can do. So, I know we have talked at previous community board meetings around the change in the curbside collection contract, and as a result of that, we are introducing a 240 litre organic bin, and that is and the refuse red bin is changing to 140 litre red bin. And with the organics collected weekly and the red bin continuing to be collected fortnightly. And we'll be taking a report to council on the, is it 30th of March? Around that fee structure, the rating portion of that fee structure, and what those calculate out to be.
So I guess so basically the issue within most of the community boards are the fact that their property revaluations have gone up. Some of that has been countered by some passive park depreciation falling, but it's around keeping pace with funding the depreciation for your properties, which is the reason that you've got an increase above your LTP rates. I guess the other thing that will discuss later in the meeting when we're talking about financial wisdom, actually starting to highlight those reserve accounts that have got deficits within them, and how we may go about in the future within the LTP about trying to bring back into funds over time. So in your case, a lot of those deficit accounts are certainly because of the fact that you've got capital expenditure in all accounts. Names, whether it be a loan or something. So we need to start making some of those decisions so that they don't continue to go into deficit, that we can actually fight them over time. That's part of a financial strategy, and that's the work that we do through the.
How much are you talking?
Look, do a balance at the end of this financial year. We're thinking overall in your reserve account is about 841,000, but there's 350,000 deficits. Funding streams going through that that haven't been accounted for. They haven't been accounted for in a funding manner. So what that means is that you might have agreed to capital expenditure in an area, but we haven't necessarily put that capital expenditure to you with a funding stream equaling it. So when we come to you through the LTP process, we need to make sure that we're matching that. And if not matching it, we're writing that deficit over a period of time.
So how do we start that?
Through the LTP discussion. Yeah. So it'll be a combination of things. We'll try to rate fund a little bit. So we'll make sure that it's over a long period of time. Some of these things have happened over a long period of time, so we need to match that with how we sum.
So,
Anything else you want to point out to us? Do we have someone move that?
I'll do that.
Stuart Duncan, seconder please. Harris, all those in favour? Aye, against? Very, thank you. Tim, do you want to do your report now, so you can leave it?
Yeah, unfortunately, Louise and I are joining the civil defence meeting by Zoom in the wee room out front. Normally we go down to it, but it seems every Thursday that I go to come here, something else gets in the way. So I said they'd have to do without me other than by Zoom. So it was really good to go to the show. Really enjoyed that, and full credit to the organisers and members of the community and staff who managed to put that show on in the middle of the boil water notice regime. That was really excellent. I've attended 2 Maniototo business breakfasts since we last met. They've got very strong turnouts. Yesterday, I think there was 17. By comparison, the last Cromwell one, which now happens in the afternoon, had 7. So I think it's just testament to the strong business community here and the really positive way that that the whole thing's approached. At yesterday's event, and I wonder who knows this, I'd be intrigued, hands up in all honesty, if you know that Ranfurly turns 125 years old this year. You do?
Yeah.
That's fine. Because there was some fairly strange.
I didn't get to go to the meeting yesterday.
That's what happens. Your long-term memory stays, but your short-term memory anyway.
Just memory, maybe.
So anyway, this plan's being formulated to recognise that 125th is a significant anniversary. So I'm sure you'll hear from the group in time to come. I've got my weekly phone-ins on Thursday on the Burn, and that when I'm in town, I'll actually go in and do that. Like yesterday when I came in to be at the business breakfast. Been a bit of flack coming my way because I haven't jumped on the bandwagon about the new proposed cuts to the Dunedin Hospital. Since they were first raised in January, I probably spent a dozen hours on Zooms or in meetings with clinicians, leaders in the actual involved in it, the local advisory group, clinical transformation group, amongst others. And I want to be really clear, if they'd said, hey, we're going to have a protest at 12 o'clock down George Street, I'd have been there waving a banner. They basically said, we fought this fought back in August, we've got something we can live with and we need to get on with it. Would you mind getting out of the way? So that's good enough for me. And as the chair of the local advisory group said in the paper towards the end of January, the cut to the original plans had virtually no impact on services or clinical capacity. So that's my place. And I recognise that Dunedin, no matter what happens with an inland Otago hospital, which will be there within, the foreseeable future, 20 years or something, Dunedin's always going to be where this area's primary, not primary care. When you've got to go to the big things, you're going to be going that way, not that way. So recognising Dunedin's important. But as I say, I don't know a lot about health, and when I have people who do know a lot about health saying get out of the way, it'd be pretty odd not to. I wrote this yesterday and I put uncertainty remains about the Lake Onslow project. Nothing much has changed with today's announcement. It's more about the Teviot, but still, Onslow backs onto here, and who knows whether there may be an effect here. So just as mayor, I'm always conscious, particularly when I'm talking to Teviot people, that the effects of Onslow isn't just going to be in the Teviot, it's going to be across the whole district if it does go ahead. So another orange light today, and indication that it'll be 2 years before we know whether it's a green or a red light. We certainly will know before it's a green light. And I spoke to the select committee on 3 Waters last month. What I really pushed about, because there was an awful lot to push about, but I really pushed about the standardised pricing and I went back through a myriad of papers I've got on this. And back when all of this was first promulgated by the government, they said you'd be paying the same for a cubic metre of water in Ranfurly as you will in Christchurch or Rangiora, and if you put a connection on, it'll be the same. And now they're not. There's no guarantee of that. So even though you guys didn't suffer the Aurora debacle here, it's pretty acute in the rest of the district that suddenly we get charged twice as much for our power lines as Dunedin because there's less of us per kilometre of power line. And my fear is that exactly the same will apply for water if these reforms go ahead. So I was pretty grumpy with the government members there over that one. We've also got just some really serious thinking ahead with the 3 Waters in terms of our long-term planning, because at the moment by law, our long-term plans do not have 3 Waters in them from the 1st of July 2024. And that's when your next long-term plan starts. And it takes, I'm going to say, well over a year, we'll just put it at that, to write a long-term plan. So the problem is, if there's a change of government in October, then all bets are off, and we will have to write our 3 Waters into it. So how the hell we cope with that degree of uncertainty, I don't know, but I don't think ignoring it is something we can do. So, sorry guys. And that's really me. Happy to answer any questions on any of that. All right.
Yeah, I see they wrote an editorial about you in the paper about your hospital cuts.
Yeah, they're a wee bit. The annoying thing is this, that I'm not alone in this opinion, but I was just a bit more direct in my, I don't want to be more of a politician because I was pretty direct in what I said. So I became the whipping boy. But that's okay.
Yeah, it's hard to, when you read, everyone has a different opinion when they're writing about the cuts, and you're not quite sure actually what the cuts are, to be quite frank, when you read it in the paper, because there's always a different outlook on it.
It's really easy. There was a big pavilion area where all the staff could go and have their lunches, and they've gone, we're getting rid of that. But there will be places in the different areas, and no big loss. 2 operating theatres, so, and I think I'm right in saying at the moment there's 12, there will be 26 in the new hospital, but there was going to be 28, but they're not going to fit them out. They're just going to have the rooms there, and if they're needed in the future, they can put the gear into them. A PET scanner, which is what you go to if you need a full body scan to see if you've got cancer floating around you anywhere. No public hospital in New Zealand has that at this stage, so they went nice to have, don't have to have it. 12 geriatric dementia beds, which has gone from 24, they've reduced it to 12. And the argument seems to be that actually a public hospital isn't the best place to have those sort of things anyway. And I'm missing one, but it was equally, they all sort of fell into the nice to have category, and in terms of future proofing, the areas are going to be built, the gear's not going to be put into them. The other one was a 3rd scanner, And the second scanner only came online 6 months ago. So they're going, we can do without that for a while. The building's going to be put there. And if we need to, we can rent a scanner rather than buy it, which is OPEX instead of CAPEX. So even looking at it that way, you go, yeah, it's not what you were promised, but a little bit like the conversation we've had and we're going to have with the bridge people, or the people over the bridges, that, yeah, I'd love to replace every bridge with a flash shiny one, but can't afford it. So, yeah, I probably be a bit too pragmatic at times.
I think the editor there, Take a Daily Times, thought that too. From what I read of it.
Yeah.
What a better we're going to win the week.
Ah, well.
I don't think, yeah, the three waters thing, it's just going to be ongoing. No matter who gets back into government, something's going to happen somewhere. So pricing,
Well,
they'll
we had the new Minister of Local Government talk to us for all provincial 2 weeks ago, and while he wouldn't tell us what was going on, he said, we're going to make changes. It's going to give you more local control. That's good.
well, they're talking Auckland's going to have a 70% rise in just their water charges, I think, 7%, 9%. So that here is probably going to happen here.
Oh, yeah, the problem isn't with what we're going to do, it's how we're going to do it, because at the moment we can't afford what's coming our way, not realistically. It's the similar value as the bridges. So how do you best save money when you've got a great big bill coming? That's the question. And one side's got their answer about how best to do it, the other side have got their answer about best how to do it. The first side's about to change theirs, and in the meantime, we've got staff going, what the hell's going on? We've got people not knowing, and it's becoming a bun fight. And unfortunately for me, the biggest blame lies at the feet of the government for not explaining what the problem was in the first place, failing in explaining why they thought their answer was the best one.
What I read of it, was that everything had to have a water meter. Like, are they still talking about all houses having a water meter right throughout New Zealand?
No, they've never talked about that. But the absolute first thing that you would do if you're running a business is to put something in that's going to value your product.
Yeah.
And so out of the 55 rural or provincial councils in New Zealand, I think there's 7 of them, including us, that have got all their water metered. And we found a 25% reduction in water usage, whilst around about 80% of our customers had a lower overall water cost. And so I continually ask the mayors of those other 62 councils or 60 councils or whatever, why aren't you doing it? What business, which is what we are, would not do something that reduced its costs by 25%, but make 80% of their customers more happy? And there's only one reason for it, it's not popular.
Yeah, but how do they regulate between Central Target District Council that have got water meters and know what they're using, and you go to another council that haven't got anything and they go, we use about this much.
Yeah,
That's charge for it.
That's it. That's why water meters will get, for my money, whatever entity is established, the first thing they'll do is put water meters in everywhere. The good news is though that ours are about bugger. Sorry, kids, ours are about end of their natural life. So they'll get
Like a few of us.
so they will get replaced. Like, who knows? This is all, crystal ball reading. But again, how can you not seriously consider water meters? They're not popular until people. I can recall when we brought water meters in, Grey Power submitted strongly against them, and the next year wrote a letter saying, actually, all of our bills and our rates have gone down. Thank you for doing it.
And every mayor got put a water meter and got sacked and you're out.
Every mayor got, yep. Yeah.
So mayor's not going to do it.
Stuff news today that people in Christchurch weren't paying their excess water charges.
Yeah.
Because other people in Christchurch were on shared water meters
Yeah.
and weren't getting bills.
Yeah. So they're bringing water meters slowly in Christchurch. And the thing with water meters is that you've got an electricity meter in your house, and every bit of electricity you use, you pay for. It's pretty simple. If we didn't have that, everyone would leave their lights on and their heaters going and their AC going. You only think about it when you got to pay for it. The only way to change people's behaviour is to pay, and we're not valuing our most precious resource. And you could actually say that that kind of attitude is what's got us in this mess in the first place. The royal we, that is. The whole nation, not just the LDC.
Anyone got any other questions for Tim? Comments? You want to move that report, Tim?
Can't, not a member of the board.
I'll move.
Telling you that for 6.5 years, Mr. Chair.
I'll move.
One day, actually,
I just wondered if we can remember the centenarian.
Centenarian.
Or the 100.
Quixty centenarian.
The Stu's moved that point, was second, please. Duncan Howell, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Thank you, Tim. application to lease part of the Navy recreation reserve.
Read reports then. Yep. Yeah, come here the way for you.
Afternoon, everyone.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have come today to ask you to consider granting lease over part of the Naseby Recreation Reserve. The Naseby Recreation Reserve is in up on Danby Path Road. The land is was previously tenanted to Sam and Wendy Inder. A lease was granted to them back 15 years ago. It expired on the 30th of June last year. The Inders are very keen to renew that lease, and our recommendation today is that, given we don't require it for recreational purposes, and the Reserve Act provides for the leasing of that reserve for grazing purposes while it is not required, we would like you to consider granting them another lease for a term of 5 years, with one right of renewal of 5 years, a rental of $760 per annum per year. We had come to that, as you will have read in the report, by using valuation evidence from more larger and significant leases over similar types of land, because the cost of having that land, the cost of having the rent valued would be prohibitive. It would pretty much suck up 5 years worth of rent if you had an actual market valuation undertaken, and a desktop would suck up a couple of years worth of that rent. So if you are happy with that proposal, we would like to be granted subject to public access to the irrigation dam, which is on Crown land within the recreation reserve being maintained, to the applicant paying the cost of the public advertising. We'll need to publicly advertise it to make sure that the public are happy with that proposal. The lease will need to comply with the Reserves Act, and we will also then, providing there are no objections which are upheld, ask for the Minister of Conservation's consent. Anybody got any questions regarding that measure?
Does everyone know where it is?
Yep.
No.
I'll move recommendation.
He does a very good job of keeping everything tidy up there. Good job.
They did take us around. We did go up there. We've been out there for a day, and Dan took us around and showed it, and it really is looking quite nice. It is. He's managing it very well on your behalf at this time.
Please move that to a second, please. Duncan Hell. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
Lovely, thank
Thank you very much. Order.
Yeah, Paddy. Thanks for that. So this report's come out of the current long-term plan, the submissions we received a couple of years ago, and that was to fill the old ice rink with water, add some plantings, create some walkways around it. However, upon some research to the Maniototo area reserve management plan, which I've added to the report, there's some guidance on what at that time was proposed for the site, and that was kept off the rugby club for grazing. Now, I understand the rugby club may not be interested in doing that, and if that's the case, I'd probably recommend we just do an expressions of interest for anybody who wants to graze that, and we can consider those and then go through the appropriate process. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's the old skating rink down here.
Yeah, the old skating rink. Yeah, down the park.
Well, that's the environment. So the original idea was just bulldoze it in, just level it all off.
Yeah, we've got no budget for that though.
Yeah, no, it was the original plan, was just fill it in.
It does provide overflow for the stormwater though. And not very often, but when there's high flow through the U-fin, it ponds there and filters out again.
Yeah.
So it's probably quite useful to keep that as that, stormwater overflow.
Isn't it where they had the motocross thing in there?
Yeah, that's possible.
Not motorbikes anymore in here.
Well, there's no club. Essentially.
The tracks used for motorbike, yeah, there's heaps of kids that go down there and use it on motorbikes and BMXs and,
No, that's
Yeah.
meant to be cool.
Yeah, informally used.
Put the road club up instead of all.
That's what I've heard, but I can go and
Talk to
approach
them.
them, because that's what's indicated in the management plan. If not, I suggest that I just do an expression of interest, raise that side, and we then go through that process, but that's come back
The
to the
only thing I
board.
was thinking about the pony club, but. Thought the road club see what they do first.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that good for the pony club.
No, it's like, not what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I guess if I get the understanding, if we approach the road club, if they couldn't turn it down, we can do it.
Yeah.
Express of interest for other groups to do that.
I don't think Rotary Club would be that interested.
Because the only hope, it used to overflow when they wanted to fill up the ice game. That's why it was put there, so,
Yeah, and to do what that submission in the plan was
yeah.
fortune, yeah. And,
Fine,
you know, if we're gonna hold water either for long.
I remember I was skating when I was a kid. Before global warming.
That's right.
Because you could actually just
Last century.
block that outlet off where the water comes out into it. Just let the water go straight through. Good place for motorbike. Okay, no other questions for Gordon? If someone move that, be accepted then please. Harris, second it, Beacon Lawley, all those in favour? Aye, against? Carried, thank you. Frank, how are you?
Oh, good, good. Good afternoon, everyone.
Do you know everyone here? Do you know Becky?
yeah, I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, the last time Mark House was here.
How are
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm here to present the financial summary as of 31st December 2022 to the board. The financial information in this report for Maniototo Ward includes the activities and budget which are governed by the community board. This report for the 6 months ending 31st December 2022 shows an unfavorable variance of 18K against the revised budgets. Operating income reflects a favorable variance to the revised budget of 7K. Overall income is slightly behind budgets. There are minimal variance in user fees and other incomes and rates. Operating expenditure during this period shows unfavorable variance of 25K against budget. The key components to this variance include depreciation and rates expense. So rate expense has unfavorable variance of 22K against the revised budgets. This is mainly due to the council payment that was made in 1st of July for the whole financial period. So it will be in line at the end of the financial period. Depreciation has unfavorable variance of 51K. This is due to the increase in the building valuation that was taking place on the 30th of June 2022. For capital expenditure, a total of 34% of the revised budget has been spent. Tax and reserves have overall favorable variance of 3K. Other reserves has unfavorable variance of 12K. Lesbi Flying Fox project has been completed for the total of 39K. This John Street Playground project has started with the project to be expected to be completed in the 3rd financial year. Property has an overall favorable variance of 7K. Lesbi Hall heater replacement project has a favorable variance of 13K. The heaters have arrived. The project is expected to be completed in March this year. Grand Ferry Arts Center has an unfavorable variance of 7K. The windows and door replacement projects that was carried from last financial year are now complete. Thank you very much. Any question?
Anyone got any questions for Frank? No, everything is quite, the red report was quite, nothing's out of whack by a long way. You?
No. Flying Fox have all gone pretty well, Nate, isn't it?
Bit short.
You gotta go
I'm a bit heavy.
No, no, yours.
I haven't, but he's talking about being short, that's one of you that are on it.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, either I'm a bit heavy or it's a bit short, Mark, one or the other. I think it's a bit short.
Really?
Oh, it's well used, I tell you. You go back to your house in those days and it's kids on it going for mad. No, it's a good idea.
Right, I'll move the report.
Stu, have a seconder, please. Mark Harris. All those in favour? Aye, against? Gary, thank you. I think it's a stick short.
It's probably, getting,
He's on.
no, I'm just trying to get her on, everybody good early, I'm just trying to get it, do you wanna move on to your shares report?
I get a cheers report. Yep. Where's it gonna start? I got a bit of a walk around the new school the other day. As I was knocking down the last of the buildings. Bit of contention over car parks and how things are done by the education department. Through the new junior block. Big building, quite a big building. All the teachers been quite happy. I know, I was reading about the wilding pines in Alexandria.
Another popular topic.
Another popular
Seems like at the time.
And is that coming under the Otago management group of wilding pines?
The Central Otago Wildlife Conservation. Control group, thank you. Yeah.
And that's all come down, it's obviously reasonably contentious.
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be, yeah. Most farmers around here are quite happy to see them go, I understand. I don't think it's too much of an issue.
I think Stu raised a very valid comment that was reported in the paper, which is that farmers have been doing it around Central Otago for 10 years or more, and it's only when it's got to the town that it's suddenly become an issue. I've seen Stu.
Well, they funded, and they were funding themselves, most of them.
Yeah.
They were funding down out there and just cutting them down themselves.
I was at the AMP show along with most of it. I thought it went very, very well. It was good to see a lot of people there, they thought. I can't remember. They told me the figure of how many people went through the gate. I can't remember what it was. Usually reasonably well supported. Plenty of trade displays. Had a few phone calls over the new rubbish bins that are coming in, the organic bin and the red bin. And people are wondering why the red bin is so small. I tried to explain to them that on the website there's a graph of what is actually in a bin and how much was, okay, it was a 30%
40%
was
4%.
organic material. And they couldn't see the problem. And I said, well, you're carting it all the way to Queenstown. What do they charge a tonne now for the government?
So there's a few different factors. There's emissions trading stamp costs, which has gone from $25 to $90, between $70 and $20. And then there's also waste levy, which has gone from $10 to $60 a tonne leading into next year. So for every tonne of waste we don't send to landfill is significant savings for the community.
Yeah. So the organic bins will get dumped down here. Is that correct?
No, they'll go back to
They'll still go back out.
Alexandra and get shredded.
Oh, you shredded them for.
And then into a composting facility.
Okay. There's been a fair bit because they're more worried about the fact that we red bins only going to be every 2 weeks still. There's a bit of concern about that, mainly from the older people, really. A couple talking to me about it. So when do they come in? July?
Yeah, 1 July.
In July. And the other thing is rubbish bins, the amount of rubbish bins. When the rail trail is busy, the ones outside the cafes, it's stacked up on the pavement. A lot of the people, like the Fantail Cafe, they go out and pick the rubbish up and the people coming in. But I noticed in Roxburgh, there's 14 rubbish bins. It's 350 metres. We've got 5.
Maybe we could take something from Roxburgh.
Don't forget that thing there.
I would have tried to get one from because they've got the recycle bin, rubbish bin and the 3 bins together. What do you call them?
Yeah, Valley's a big.
They've got, yeah, they've got those 3. Every other town seems to have one, and we haven't got any. The one was taken away from the camper van site. There's a big bin there, and it got taken away. We're just lucky we've got a guy who emptied them very regularly and was very conscientious from the Delta type. I think that empties them quite regularly. The shops are going out and putting them in their bins because there's no problem.
Thanks for that. The guy who does empty them is running up his liquid service for those bins as well. That's been noted through Delta on what assumptions that we can do to look at that. So yeah, maybe the wrong one. Yeah. David and I could think.
Yeah, well, like I said, there's 14, I think, in Roxburgh and 350 metres. Well, we've got a rail trail, and like I said, the people in the shops are going out emptying it themselves and putting it in their rations. We're just lucky we have a guy here that is actually very conscientious about emptying.
Yeah.
But I think there used to be one outside of the shop, didn't there, Becky?
There is one.
There is one, and there was one down further, got removed.
Yeah.
And that one outside the shop over those 2.
Yeah.
I think you've got to also be aware that there's a cost to empty bin of about $1,800 to get it empty bin. So the more you put in, the capital cost for the bin, and then there's the cost ongoing for the empty. It's not going to get any less, but.
No, it won't get any less. I appreciate that fully. Even in the summer and the rail trail season, we could have extra temporary bins even at sites, particularly outside cafes and that.
That'll be
District-wide cost, that's right.
District-wide cost, yeah, but it still costs.
Yeah,
It's still going to cost some money no matter what. They'll be, well, if we can do, if something can be addressed in some way, particularly, it's a bit late this season at the moment for rail trail, but next season we can look at getting something done before the season starts. And particularly at the camper van site, there's a lot of rubbish there, and some of them unfortunately walk over to the recycle area and put their rubbish in there. Yeah. Thank you. Victoria Paul, I was talking to some members of the community about, how do I put it nicely, the dislike for the council and how they weren't allowed to put the building up. The building inspectors. The other thing about it was they received grant money. Yeah. Now they're wondering what to do with all the grant money.
Well, the last I heard
this is a couple of weeks ago. I ran into Lights.
But aren't they making light for light? Aren't they going to put the
They
structure?
got light for light, but now they've got all this money. Grant money.
Not all from us though.
Not all from us, from other places.
Well, they have to give it
So
back.
they, what?
No, they can't structure it. Not what they were going for.
Is there something that they can they deviate? Or
Yeah, well, they can put it back like for like. They were going to build a building.
Yeah. And they couldn't get, so when they applied for building consent, the builder applied for building consent, it triggered a whole new structure of building consent.
Yeah.
But they can put light for light, so
They can put a structure up with a plastic roof.
Yeah.
They can't put a building up with walls on.
no, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Light for light, and their funding will stay the same, and they don't trigger any resource consent cases with my meeting with Rebecca and them. So as long as what they did do.
Yeah, well, I don't think they've been in touch with any of the funders. I said, well, I'll have to go back to where they got their money and check it out, just whether they've got the money in the bank. They're a bit vague on exactly what they had. Because the council we gave them that.
Out of our trust.
Out of our trust, we give them that 5.
Yeah, trust fair gave about 35,000, so I had a meeting with them last week, I'm talking about Michael.
You and I were up at the Naseby the other Friday and we met the regional council, the new EO, Richard. Few of the councillors. Didn't go down that well, some of us do, it's true.
Normal.
Well, it was good to see them actually out in the community and the regional community, as I said, it's the Otago Regional Council, as I pointed out, it's not the Dunedin County Council. I don't think they have a very good idea about rabbits, wallabies, water, or anything. They had 2 days, 2 days here. Yeah, 2 days wandering around, they're up in Moss Swamp. Really interested to see what happens.
They find a wallaby.
Hey,
They find a wallaby.
I saw 3 the other day. Greg Vickers, I think. Greg Vickers. Hey, Greg Vickers. Last week they put them on. Yeah. Be interesting to see what the outcomes they have on coming out all the way out here and staying out here for 2 or 3 days and just seeing what they go back with.
Yeah, and I guess their challenge is that the policies they're dealing with are coming from government in Wellington and they're trying to manage it. The issue I had in Wallabies is our pest groups done a very good job of keeping pests here. They'd only be contracted flat stick to them because they haven't got a division to do it. Yeah. I also met with a guy, Scott Liddell from the Regional Council, about culverts and bridges and the willows around the culverts and bridges below stream and downstream. I took them to one Princeton Road down there with it. I think it's a 6-foot culvert. You can see the top of the culvert. You can't see anything else. So whenever it floods, it just goes straight over the road. That's something he's got. The council's 50 metres is it either side, 25, and he's looking at what they can do, whether they can start moving culverts. And I took him around a few other culverts and bridges and said, well, it doesn't matter what you do. Can't get way down the river because it's full of willows. Bridges, so we're going to talk about that later on. I think we've still had a lot of people talking about bridges and how it works. I had a quick meeting with Stu Patterson about the hospital. They're way over budget. And it's not getting any better. They're still working on removing the last of the earth and asbestos there. They're on hold at the moment because of the cost. And also water. I feel that in Ranfurly, we had our water issues last month, that Fulton Hogan were inept to what they did. There was no consultation. There was no maintenance. And when they came to get water off the Hawkton irrigation, there was no communications between the 4 guys that were doing the job. They sent the fact that they sent a sucker truck from Cromwell. They sent 4 different guys who didn't know each other were coming. Water manager from Fulton Hogan was completely out of his depth. He didn't know what was going on. And when I inquired about when the grill had been last cleaned up at the intake, he didn't know. And it turned out that the last time it had been cleaned was before Christmas. And the fact that they knew the water was getting low in January, and they waited till, I think it was the 10th of February, before they decided to do something. Dates. I just feel that the costs of bringing tankers away from Dunedin, a sucker truck from Cromwell, various men running around doing pretty well nothing, for the fact that no one had been and checked the grill. The grill was blocked for the lack of water. But they were down to 6 litres a second coming into the plant, and Ranfurly uses about 6 litres a second, I think is the correct. And for the fact that when they went up there and cleaned everything up and got it working, we had enough water again. So I feel that Fulton Hogan were completely inept in the work they did. I just don't see how they can even sit back in Alexandria and say they did nothing wrong. And on that fact, I took the board, we went up there for a look, showed them where the water comes from, how it works. We went right up the pipeline from Johnny Gervin's, from the old galleries. I haven't been up there in years. Hopefully everyone learned a bit, saw a bit. But Becky, you've never been up there. And there's bits of that pipeline, like Alistair showed us in the forest. It's about a kilometre of pipeline that's completely covered in broom and trees that no one even knows is there. So if there's ever a leak in there, you're never going to find it. That's right at the where it comes off the boundary of
Top boundary, Stu
branch to the boundary. And just the fact that the way the whole thing was worked, I feel it was any blame should be laid fully at Fulton Hogan's feet. It shouldn't be laid at the council. I don't think the council did anything wrong. They were operating under
the fact that we had to go through those boil water notice and that one was not necessary at all. Just beyond the bloody, all it just feeds into this 3 water pumps. The government are trying to ram down our throats.
Yeah, so hopefully,
What are they gonna do about taking that broom and stuff off that pipe? You can guarantee one day it will blow out up there.
yeah,
There'll be at a time when you can't get at it. And it's state input.
yeah,
That's all now, so.
yeah, it was brilliant.
Mm.
Because the other thing we looked, I showed them the, water meter that's up, right at the top, there's a water meter up there that has been like that for about a year and hasn't been installed. And the thing is, if they'd had a water meter up there, they would have seen that they were running out of water right at the very top.
That helps, I want to remember.
That's what, I think they're putting an electronic one in there because of the solar panel and everything there. I just don't think they've done the live tap to put it in yet. And, like I said, if your hose is running out of water, you go to the tap to see if the tap's still turned on. And that's about all I've got.
Chairman's report.
All those in favour? Against? Very, thank you. Oh, yeah, Ann Rogers.
Yeah. See you later, guys.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. I hope you enjoyed a bit of it. Not too boring for you. Good to see you here.
Anna, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure what's wrong with the video camera. I can't. Anyway, I am here. Thank you, and apologies before I was having a few technical issues, but I seem to have resolved most of them except for the video. So I don't know if you can see me other than a blur. That's all I can see. So I haven't. Hello. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. I haven't spoken to the Maniototo Community Board before, and so we're taking the time to go around and have a chat about Plan Change 19, which we notified last year, and it affects the whole district. So we're going around each community board, and we've been to Vincent and Cromwell and now Maniototo, and we're going to Tibet Valley next week. So it's just a bit of an update on Plan Change 19. So what Plan Change 19 is, for those that don't know, it's the first time that council's looked at our residential chapter of our district plan since 1998, and it's other than sort of tweaking zoning. So it's a fairly comprehensive change. We have completely redrafted the current chapter. I'll take my report as read and just kind of go through the highlights if that's okay. Council resolved some time ago to approach rezoning in the way that we plan our towns from a spatial planning perspective. It started with the Cromwell spatial plan, and which was adopted by council in 2018, and the Vincent one was the latest one, which was adopted by council at the start of 2022. So what that did for us, it informed where future zoning might go for those two wards. We're currently working on Tibet Valley, and so Tibet Valley, we've met with the community and we'll be going through the same sort of process, although a slightly smaller process because of the size of the communities we're dealing with. I think one of the biggest shifts for Plan Change 19 is that we're moving into looking at medium density housing, which is something that Central Otago hasn't traditionally had much of. We have been able to go down to 250 square metres sections within the existing plan since 1998, but it generally speaking hasn't been taken up. And we're thinking that perhaps what happens is the heights and the yards and that kind of thing affects what you can actually build within those sections. So the new medium density provisions allow for up to 3 stories in places in Cromwell and Alexandra. So a much denser type of development. There's a little bit in Clyde, but that only goes up to 2 stories in Clyde because of the heritage precinct there. So it's providing for a little bit more density, but alongside that, we've also developed medium density guidelines, because what we don't want to happen is to end up with just concrete blocks. We don't want that. So we want to make sure that while we're going for more density within our sort of townships, or some of the townships, we're actually making really livable places for our community. So that's one of the big things that's come out of that. We've also recently notified heritage guidelines, which is Plan Change 20, but that will apply to the residential areas and as well. So there's a bit of an overlap there, and that's around trying to manage the medium density housing, particularly in relation to Clyde initially, and the heritage aspects of it, to try and bring those two together. It's a really complex plan change, and there's a lot of moving pieces in it, but it has been generally quite well received by the community. The submissions are reasonably positive about the work that's been done. So one of the biggest shifts in terms of the low density is providing for minor units as a permitted activity, which is something that traditionally more than one unit on a residential site would have required a resource consent. So we're moving away from that and allowing for minor units to only have to get the necessary building consents. So that's that would be another quite big shift. For the Maniototo, largely it will affect existing residential zones, and because we haven't gone through that process of the spatial planning and working out with the community where medium density or other zonings might be, the default is the low density, which kind of reflects what's currently there. The default that's come in is 500 square metre section minimum. That is higher than what's currently provided for, but it's generally speaking, when we had a look, most of the recent subdivisions have been sort of in that 500 to 600 square metre sections. So we'll be, having a look at that. And I think some of the like places like some of the smaller townships have what we call a rural settlement zone, so it also affect them in terms of minimum allotment size. So I'm trying to think what else there might be that's a highlight for this. We have had submissions in relation to Ranfurly in particular, and I was going to share my screen if that's okay, to show you the areas just that have been asked to become residential that are currently rural residential in around Knox and Wells Street. So there's three quite big blocks that we've had requests through submissions to rezone. Would you like me to share that with you to show you the area?
If you can, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can.
Blue sea.
Sorry. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, here we come.
Just know that.
No.
Technology. He's got a whiteboard.
Is that, they're talking about Move Murray's? Right up there, I suppose, and Knox Street. The Knox Street? There's not one. Is it Knox Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you able to,
Well, we could before.
okay.
I ain't stuffed it up somewhere.
I'm just waiting for share the screen now, but I'll feel.
Think twice about you, Wayne. You're a sharp operator.
It's not Wayne, it's not allowing me to find my screen. I've got it there, so.
Send it to me.
I
I'll put it up.
I can, yeah.
Wall Street. There's only a couple of empty sections in Wall Street. We
Okay.
got that in.
I guess I could, can I talk you through it? Would that be, I'd like, it would have been ideal to show it on the map, but I don't think I'm going to be able to share the GIF. Yeah, I don't think I can at the moment. But yeah, so it's, oh, no, I'm having a few technical issues here. Yeah, so it's the area that from Caulfield Street heading north, there's a block that's got a little strip. So it's got Caulfield, it's in the block that is bounded by, oh, where are we? Sorry. You've got.
Where is it?
Scotty,
Yeah,
that's on Caulfield Street.
You've got Caulfield, Wells and Knox. So those three streets. So there's three blocks that go up through the centre that are bounded. Sorry?
Oh, Sally Mahal, Challenge, Phyllis. Opposite Zach, opposite Bluey.
Yeah, so it's Elliott's block there on Caulfield Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so street used to go right through, so it'll be a part of
Sure, 100.
two others
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. So it runs from Caulfield right through. There's two bits of unformed legal road that run across those two blocks. So the roads are already, the legal road's already in place, but it's not formed. So but running up the block between, is it Northland Street and Duggan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
runs up, yeah, so it's the blocks between those two roads from Caulfield Street up past Knox Street. So it's there's three quite big blocks there. And the request has been to make those residential. Oh, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so so that's the request. Huh?
Private land.
All private land.
Johnny Elliott looked at that last couple of years. He's been looking at it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
60 anyway.
Yeah.
So out of
So so that's been a request. It's not in Plan Change 19, but through submissions, parties are allowed to ask us. So we've been asked to consider that for inclusion as residential going forward. So we'll have a look at that and put a recommendation to the hearings panel in due course.
Oh, it's the top in the middle.
Yeah. So here is 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
There's a lot of land in there. There's a lot of land in there. And so we've had an initial discussion with our infrastructure team. And from an infrastructure perspective, Three Waters team, from a Three Waters perspective, there's no real barriers to that. So that'll be something that'll come through, and the hearings panel will make a decision on that in due course.
Stuff on the golf course side. That's
Pardon?
residential, real stuff on the other side of town, the golf course, those sections over there.
Yeah, we can only respond to a submission that we've received, or we've only received the submission on those three blocks. Yeah. So that's all. Yeah. Are you able to show them, QP? Sorry, I wish I could share my screen, but I don't know why I can't. But
It's up on the screen.
We got up on the GIS.
oh, okay, that's cool. Yep. Okay, happy to take any questions.
So the medium density, can they be made smaller?
Yeah, so medium density, as notified in the plan change, is generally speaking 200 square metres, but for a comprehensive development where you've got multiple lots, it can go down to 180 square metres, which is quite dense. But with that comes height and some design guidelines about making sure there's access to light and it doesn't affect adjoining properties and things like that. So yeah, it is quite small. It's whether or not, I mean, I'm not quite sure whether it would be the 3 stories that's provided for around the town centres in Alexandra and Cromwell, may not work elsewhere. We've been turning our mind to what it might look like in Teviot Valley, for example, around Roxburgh, and 3 stories would be interesting there. But it wouldn't necessarily be 3 stories. For Clyde, for example, where 3 stories was considered to be not appropriate by council, we've dropped that down to 2 stories because of the presence of the heritage precinct there. So, but it is quite dense, and it is a bit of a shift for us. But I guess in terms of affordability, that density, the value of the land appears to be the thing that's pushing the housing prices up. So if we can, in some areas, appropriately provide for smaller sections, smaller houses, that sort of thing, maybe apartments, then we hope that it might assist with some affordability.
Potentially, there's only 23 potential sites in Ranfurly, period.
Sections.
23.
Well, that section's about 23 sections in there, so Ranfurly's only ever got, if they choose to sell or choose to develop, 23 sections in the whole of Ranfurly region, I guess I'm saying.
Are you talking about the new, about what's been asked for through the submissions?
Well, I'm just saying, if you look at the whole of the growth predictions, if you ever wanted to grow in Ranfurly, we could only ever have 23 more houses with that planning we've got now.
That's a no, that's only no section.
Yeah, but there's not many more. There's not many more.
On the outside, there's nowhere else.
Oh,
So-
there's golf club land, you got moving roads and places like that.
Yeah.
So there's 23 in there.
There's quite a lot of yield in that, if you think about it in the terms of a, maybe not 1,000 or 1,200 square metre section, but in terms of a 500 square metre section, there's quite a lot of undeveloped land through there. In that stuff that's being proposed, we haven't actually done any analysis of the wider zone there, and we certainly intend to get to that at some point. But I just thought it'd be interesting to point out that this is what's being requested by a submitter. Is there a demand? Like, is that something that the community board is hearing?
Huge demand, I think, for open up sections, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, happy to answer any other questions.
So the section blue's got 6 too.
Yeah, he's we was in the top left corner.
How long before we do a Maniototo spatial plan?
It's not on our work program at the moment. We're just working through Teviot at the moment. So Teviot was the next one off the rank. So we are quite a way through Teviot. We'll be going, hopefully we're touching base with the community tonight. We've had, and hopefully we're going to check in with the community board next week and hopefully report to council in April. So we'll go out with the engagement. So it'll be, yeah, I'm not sure. We haven't sort of set a date for that in the program, but this year is Teviot. But we certainly will be. This is how council's chosen to approach planning. It's a really quite efficient way of engaging with communities on a whole range of things. And so I guess as an example, we started, I think, mid last year with Teviot. So we're looking at it's about, I guess, a 12 to 18 month process. Sorry, that doesn't answer your question, but it's we just haven't set the program. We're just working kind of methodically through it at the moment.
But, anyone else got any questions? All right. Thank you very much for that, Anne.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you.
So can we have someone move that report from Anne, please?
Yeah.
Stu Duncan, the seconder, please. Becky McCauley. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thanks.
Members' reports. Who's going first? Jordan.
Let me go first. Oh, what a day. I went on that drive round and we had a look at the water with these other guys. It was a good day. Also attended the rodeo. A lot of people there. It was a good day down there as well. After years of saying I've never got anyone complaining about anything, I have had a letter from someone complaining about the seal and the roads around Ranfurly and trees. A good old perennial. Fraser Ave is rough with bumps and hollows. Perry Street from Northland to Gundana is all bumps and hollows. Trees opposite CJ Sinkler's are a menace in height and leaves and fill the town from top to bottom when the wind blows. Usually just after the sucker truck's been.
That's pretty good.
And Wells Street, the tire seal needs repairing after Fulton Hogan resealed the gaps in the centre of the road. And that looks as if they missed it, but Fulton Hogan coming in for quite a pillaring today. And the poplars behind the chemist and the hair salon, they're just as bad. They need to be copped at ground level. This man thinks a lot like I do.
He doesn't obviously like trees.
No. So that was first time I've had someone complaining about anything.
Well, the trees behind
they belong to Doc, don't
yeah,
they?
dock trees, aren't they?
Yeah.
And there's a
And that bloody shed's actually a disgrace too.
That the railway shed?
Yeah.
Part of the bites, and then a lot of part of the bites. So we,
No, it's the one by Graham's there.
yeah, on the head of the new centre places, don't they? So we have that, yeah.
It's full of junk at the moment. Junk and the roofs, I think, asbestos.
I was at the wooden shed down there, right outside ground behind.
It's
It turned into a youth area for one stage.
It's further down.
No, that's
There's a
further
whole
down,
lot
that's
behind
painted
me.
one, yeah. We used to store,
But no one's going to store anything there now, is it?
no, the Lions used to store all their, Titco stuff in there, but Doc has since decided they can't use it anymore.
So I'll take it away, Doc, will they?
I don't know what they're gonna do. Best thing that could happen with that other than someone throw a cigarette in there as they're going past from the bike.
People at bikes don't smoke. They vape.
Remember that thing was recording, mate. That thing was recording.
I don't care, it's still a big solution for them. And then you give the fire brigade a bit of practice.
I don't need more practice.
So that's about all I've got. This day. Oh, we went out and had a look at the Stocks Bridge, didn't we?
Yeah.
Whatever happened? Did those guys come back to the council or?
Yeah, and I was surprised because they have been given a quote from Bridget New Zealand, and I was meant to have a Zoom meeting with them on Monday and I forgot, but I had been in touch with them.
Given a quote for that, Bruce?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And there was quite good discussions about what we could do with it and once more with the regional council really gonna have to come on board with some of these things, but as you all know about that, Stu. Especially if these willow trees and that are gonna come down, and now with all this riparian planting they're doing around the rivers, when that all gets up and we have a flood, there's only one place it's gonna go to, and that's down the river and into bridges, so lots of issues.
Well, the biggest problem with the regional council is all the rules and regulations, isn't it? Every time you try to do something, there's a rule that says you can't do it.
Well, that was the interesting thing about that trip up to the head, you know, that water, and you said all that gravel had to be stacked on the top side of it.
You couldn't throw it back.
And they can't throw it on the bottom side. Well, normally, I don't see why, because in a normal year, the water would take the gravel down. And I was talking to Stu Francis about that, and he said further down, since that gravel was now not coming down, the river has actually picked the gravel up that was there and is now scared to do that.
Yeah.
So if the gravel had carried on down like it did under natural, it wouldn't be scaring the hill. So why they have a stupid rule like that is beyond me. But, they have a lot of stupid rules to carry the regional council.
Yeah,
You know, like it just defies logic. If it went down there naturally, why can't it still be fired over the dam and go down there naturally? Rather than causing a big heap of bloody rubbish up. But yeah, the trip over the water was very interesting.
just like we had Alistair, just.
And, yeah, and I can't really see why, perhaps you can't have a wee bit more to do with it. Like why sending a bloody man all the way down from Alex and waiting an hour and 2 hours for that sort of rubbish.
That discussion was had with staff a long time ago that we wanted to retain the waterman in the Maniototo. It was clearly rejected.
Who rejected it?
Wow.
And why?
Well, it was not at the time because
Was it
people
Paul
had
Hogan
those
got rid of them after they changed that or?
That's
That's the story.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why he couldn't have him here. He had his own house. It wasn't going to cost him anything.
Yep.
And now we've lost a good man. Probably cost us a lot of money over the years. So Paul Hogan really need to get their arse in again. And that's about me.
Thank you, Mark.
Me. Well, straight away after our last meeting that we had in December, I met with David and Carla and Alex. I went over there to talk about swimming pool, and we had a really good discussion about swimming pool. Some good positive feedback about that, which is cool. So we've already made a couple of changes in there, which has been welcomed by the community, and they're really excited about some more changes that might happen maybe next year. You know, we've got some good staff getting trained now, a bit late in the piece, but I know personally one of them is really keen to get in there next year and do some good positive, you know, making sure it's open consistently, and you know, yeah, like it's really, really exciting. So and she's a good solid girl. And you've just done another one as well.
Yeah, some good stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, next season, you know, even hopefully maybe open earlier. And so we're going to have a public informal get together, and we're going to invite both the schools to come and have discussions, because I know one of the teachers from St. John's especially is really concerned about how much time she's had in the pool. She's had 8 classes in the pool this year. And she said there's 4 kids in her class that she know could not save themselves. So she said it's really frustrating. So we really want to push for the pool to be open more and utilised more by that, especially with all the drownings. So that's one thing that we have started and working on, and yeah, it's nice and positive, which is cool. What else have we had? We've had the late night shopping. We've got the Naseby Fun Day, Big Bash cricket tournament, the AMP show, the rodeo, huge successful events with no face masks, no COVID worries. You know, it was all really cool to see the community getting out and about, and in a great positive light as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed the water. Alistair and the men, quite an entertaining morning out there. Learned a lot. Really, like Alistair kept saying, he was just really gutted with the upkeep of every hydrant that we went to, not hydrant, you know, manhole. It was, yeah, just no love given to it, eh? Like he was really quite appalled by the state of it. I agree. I think we should have something in the Maniototo. And I've talked to a couple of farmers. I've done some research. I've found a gadget. This is $880 from Farmlands Gadget that you can put into the tank, and it sends information to your phone, and you can see exactly where your water level is in the tank. You can have it set so it can alert you. There's like a nice wee QR code that you can get more information about that. So maybe Fulton Hogan need to look at that. Like quite simple. Like if we've got somebody up from Hawaii or wherever, why, you know, like why do we get so low?
So all our reservoirs do have a SCADA system where you do have live reporting of tank levels.
So in February when that went so low, the word on the street is if we had a, correct me if I'm wrong, a house fire over Waitangi weekend, there wouldn't have been enough water to come through a hydrant.
It was still,
so that's health and safety, is it not?
Tank, and I don't believe the boil water notice was because the tank was getting low, but Julia is coming to the meeting or after the meeting to give an update. She's just couldn't be available during the time. So
it was down on 15%. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, if you had a decent house fire, you would have struggled to put it out.
Yeah.
If you had been ringing everyone around you to tell to stop showering and stop drinking.
Yeah. So that's a little bit concerning that we live in this day and age, and you had a house fire, you'd be
Well, a house fire, I think from memory, you'll get rid of 30,000 litres without even trying. But I mean, it takes 1,000 and Janice, we should know, to fill hoses, 1,000 and 1,500 litres to fill hoses.
It's all good. There's an electric car goes on fire, you just drown it. And then you have tanker loads and tanker loads to squirt water on.
I just put it into somewhere that you want to do.
Yeah, very shit. Yeah, you're just dumping tanker loads at 7,000 litres of tanker, then just dump that on and then go and refill it and dump it again. So
That's quite a, fire got away in that dry period. In town here, and we had no water.
So, and I think the residents.
Well, we left the cart water. Put the fire out, I'm talking.
You wouldn't be able to cart enough.
No, you wouldn't, no, that's just.
Yeah, no, they're very valid points, and as it points out, everything is monitored up in here as in inflows, outflows, and reservoir levels. But like I said, I just don't think Fulton Hogan were monitoring enough properly and checking what was going on. As you say, every hydrant and valve we went to was overgrown with grass, and you couldn't find them.
Couldn't find it.
Yeah. If you didn't have Alistair there, we would have been searching. You know.
Well, the pub, I think.
So yeah, it was a good eye opener. I was shocked, and I was a lot to think about. It's like, well, it was really awesome pipeline coming through, but like you say, for at least a kilometre you can't get to, and they're top of the forest. Like that's.
The forest, and we're talking more sections in Rankford, which is more water usage.
Yeah.
So I think where Johnny Gervin's got his dam, I think that was where originally the council were going to build a raw water storage area. that's way up around behind Gerber. Where Johnny Gervin's dam is, I think, I'm not quite sure. That was the original plan, was when they built the reservoir, they were gonna build raw water storage. I think it was up there, Mark, I'm not quite 100% sure where they were gonna put, so yeah, that's, 23 sections, and if you fill them up in 10 years' time, there's whatever, more water. Yep, anything else, Becky?
No, that was pretty much.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you.
But same as everyone else, AMP show, it's the first one for 3 years, so it was a real good turnout and a good day. Rodeo was good, it was a good turnout, perhaps not quite as many spectators as I'd have liked, but the last few have all been around New Year, so missing out on a bit of that holiday maker crowd. I've got water cock up written here, so it's been discussed pretty well. Broom on the side of the roads, I'm not sure what time of the year that gets sprayed now, but it hasn't been done this year. They had some reasonable kills last year and nothing's happened since. And there's roads around here with broom on both sides of the road, right to the road and getting reasonably high. There's even broom on the side of one of the streets in Ranfurly, inside the 50k area. That was the other thing too, their streets never got sprayed for a while after Christmas, wasn't it?
No, yeah.
Well, those jobs should have been done before Christmas, I think.
There's weeds in some of the streets, not ground, covering the.
This happens every year, I must admit.
Yeah. And, the fire brigade, we mentioned it before, they were losing the Hilux they've got as a smoke chaser instead of a support vehicle. And we've been granted a new one. An email a couple of weeks ago, was it? We might talk a bit more on it, but they're sending us a new Hilux with a canopy on it, which will probably rip the canopy off it and
Single cab or
double cab. And new, it sounds like it's new, not new to us. We had a bit of a meeting in St Bathans with one of the hierarchies. But Stu can probably talk a bit more on that. And that's about me. Really. Oh, and I did get a couple of phone calls about the water.
Yeah, how you getting on at St John's? Going all right?
Our ambulance went out on a job this morning, got partway to the job and went into limp mode. Basically means that you can only sit at about 50 k's an hour in it because it just depowers it so it doesn't blow itself up. So they carried on out under, I think they turned the lights off at 50 k's, kept dying on them. So it's probably as we speak getting away to Dunedin on a back of a tow truck. And the boss and one of the others is going down to Middlemarch to pick up an area spare that's been brought up that far.
Still busy, plenty to do.
We're offline quite a bit during the week. We're offline now. I'll come back on tonight. And I'll be single crew tonight, so there's a bit of that going on. Down to 13 crew members, I think. So, 2 in this room. But busy January. I think I did 15 jobs in January. And it's been sort of got quiet. Once the holiday period dropped off, it got quiet.
Good.
Yeah.
You just need more members, like everywhere else.
Yep. And I talk to Collins every day. I'm ringing up and putting us offline or putting us back on or saying a single crew. And they just keep saying it's the same everywhere. Doesn't matter whether it's here or Tapanui or Twizel or Tekapo, it's all the same. Even paid stations are struggling to crew an ambulance. Page went out last night or the night before to urgently requiring one for Belcluca. That's a paid station.
Cromwell offline a lot of times at night, covered by Alex. And even if Alex gets busy, I've been pulled out of there. It's the way it is at the moment. That's me.
All right, thanks, Dane. You,
Right, I'll be pretty quick because most have been talked about. Kaiba meeting at the bridge show was exceptional. A lot of people stayed around longer, and the sponsors, all the people in the tents had a great day. First thing I walked in, I met the ORC, Tim, Tiaki, Maniototo, so it's not actually an enjoyable day when you go, not enjoyable, but it was good, but it's business for us elected members. With Robert the other day, the ORC elected members at Naseby, just understanding who they are and where they are, what they're representing. Naseby, you know, you talk about wallabies. Are there wallabies here? Well, you should have known that because your staff have been killed 4 last week. There's a lot of that stuff they don't understand or get, and rabbits especially. And it's all new for them as it's new for us, but it's bamboozling the rules they get. So I don't know if they're ever going to get hold of that. Regional roading meeting, Dunedin, Belt Luther actually, keep our eye down. Everyone's got the same issues. Wakatai pretty much said that the funding lines are in place for the next 2 years, 2.5, 3 years maybe, but after that with the cyclone, God knows what happens. And the 350 million from the government going in there is just one of many. So yeah, council meeting the other day, Walding Pines thing, it was straightforward as far as a lot of us are concerned, but once a few people in the community get outspoken about it and the visual effects, it sort of took over the debate. There is a policy about Walding Pine, and it was a good result, and it put Tim in a fair bit of a spot because it was Vincent Community Board that started muddling in the waters, as it were, the definition of the law. But at the end of the day, it's a weed and a pest, and everyone else has done it. But it seems to get to the towns, and there's enough friction. The community boards feel under a lot of pressure, but it got sorted out pretty quickly. But I can see in the paper, the media's still churning away in the corners, but it is what it is. Wanaka show, it was amazing too. A lot of people, and they've got infrastructure problems up there, just getting people to and from the show. It's changed a lot, but man, it was a really busy. That's good to see because I think everyone felt like our show, they wanted to go somewhere, do something. We talked about the rodeo and things here. It's been good that people are getting out and something to go to. Yeah, next couple of weeks, Duncan and I and a couple are going up to North Island, hopefully the Hawke's Bay, and people on the rail trail had a wedding on the weekend down in Hawke's Bay. Some of the stories are phenomenal, and I'm not going to talk about them because they're just horrific. But it'll be quite good to get up there. And there's been a friend to go up and help some people up there, so we might try to get up if we can the next couple of weeks, and I'll quite like to have a look at the infrastructure and see some of the things that did happen, whether in bridges, and help out and repair pipelines to do that, and drive a digger or maybe stay in the fire brigade overnight or take a call or duty. So that was all good. Rail trails going nuts, really, really busy. The trails are really busy now, capacity filling up. So all these things about bins, and it's quite demanding. A lot of people are quite demanding, especially Australians. So they get here, and there's been a few issues with hotels being shut and cafes being shut and that. So the infrastructure's got to go on. And I think that's something we've got to be very careful of. We have a tourism strategies and all the stuff in the world, but the rail trails banging through pretty quick. Electric bikes are creating a wee bit of a hassle because just getting them charged and then they break down a wee bit. So that sort of stuff, but a lot of people on them, and a lot of the trails have been really, really good. Farming under a lot of pressure at the moment, really is. Stock, you can't get stock across the Crook Strait. So logistically, you talk about ferries, just trading store cattle and store lambs around, they can't do it. The cyclone, getting cattle to Wairau and that sort of stuff are out, you know, they just can't get them to some of the works. And while we've got friction with America and China, there's a lot of issues and interest rates doubling. Luckily, it's been a reasonably good season here, but farming is going to go into a really tight spin in the next 18 months, which affects these rural communities a lot, and the mental well-being of people as well. So I think it's something, you know, we've heard a bit of the frustration we have with council and contractors. That stuff's not going to go away because people are getting sick of always fighting against something and no more than farming. Obviously, Santia leaving, so it's not here obviously, but she's had 5 years, and wish her well in what her future looks like. She has to like staying in Central, but we're now starting the process of new CEO. So that's a bit more work for us elected members, but hopefully we can go through the process, and we've got a employment geezer come and do the first process of it, and the executive committee will go through that, which will be Tame Rowley, Neil Gillespie, Tim, Sally Fiden and myself. So we'll go through and skim down whatever he brings to it to 5 or 6, and we'll come to whole council, and the council make a decision. So that'll be a long not a long drawn out process, but it's a process. Yeah, talked about going up north, Turuhua. The Trustpower guys came the other day. I did an ad for BBC World actually, about energy in New Zealand and farmers, and they're still asking when that swimming pool's done. So that money's still there, and they've got that money. And that process, they're talking about power generation into the future. So it's quite interesting. There's some guys from Sydney and one guy from, I don't know where he was, Middle East, came to an article about the power lines and how we integrated and doubled the capacity and what the future looks like. And so I just signed the scout thing the other day about it. But yeah, in that process, I said, well, actually, they weren't paying me, but we talked about our fire truck, so they could contribute towards that. The water, I'm not going to go on, it's been talked about enough. In the fire truck, there's quite an interesting discussion this, and it's probably one of the things that shows the depth of a rural community. So when we got our 4x4 fire engine, we had a four-wheel drive Hilux extra cab, and fire emergency said, well, we're taking that off you because you've got a four-wheel drive truck. And we said, well, that's not fit for purpose because 80% of our jobs is first responder to a car accident. So if you get a vehicle, get out there, put signs up, and we can all do that. Unlike St John's, we've got 53 people that are able to be in that situation. We're very fortunate. And we said, well, that's not fair. So we wrote a letter to the fire emergency and said we will say to our case that we want to keep that vehicle or get a vehicle like that. And anyway, we got a letter back. First we went to fire in Milwaukee, and Bobby said, oh, you well done, you guys have got a really good case, you've got your truck. I said, oh, that's great, excellent, we'll do that. And next thing the chief said, oh no, it's been turned down. So as it was, I went to a meeting and I come back past the Wedderburn pub, which is not unusual. And I said to Ange, we're gonna hey?
You're past it.
Yeah.
That is unusual.
Anyhow, sitting there and talking about it, I said, we're going to have to Ange, we're going to organise a committee, which I'm on, to get funds for this fire truck. So we're going to have to raise it ourselves. In the bar happened to be Stephanie Rodaranga, who used to work at council. Her sister was there, and she goes, oh, you need to talk to my sister. Cut a long story short, a small community can only do. Anne's text at the pub, and she said, you need to talk to Stephanie Rodaranga. I said, I know Stephanie, and she's going to meet St Bathans next Thursday afternoon. So Dunk and I and Ange went over to meet her at 4 o'clock at her uncle's funeral. So he had a funeral lunch, and cut a long story short, her son had got crook. And she knew all us, well, pretty much all us. Dunk had taken her son to Dunedin in the ambulance in a snowstorm, had a couple of drinks with her and come home, and she texted the other night saying she hadn't forgotten about it. And her sister was out there, and obviously second in charge of Fire and Emergency New Zealand. She was the two people in North Island. She texted saying, haven't thought I'd forgotten about you guys, rah. And then James has a text me about an hour, that was about 4:30, 5 o'clock, saying her case had been re-looked at in Wellington and we've got a brand new fire truck coming. So we thought we had a winner when Duncan carted her off and she wanted Sunday to get a photo with him. So it just goes to show that, and my argument was we had to push the fire and emergency at the top level, put a personalised story there. So we're very, very lucky that we have now got what we want. But it just goes to show that in a community, when you get together, it's about the people, that things happen. So other than that, yeah, it's been a pretty busy time, but I do think it's going to get a bit busier for all these wee things. But the general theme about what I'm hearing now is that sometimes we just want to make sure in our wee corner that we get remembered as well, because a lot of stuff goes on other places. But that water thing really got everyone angsted up, and especially with the show and starting. And good luck to all the guys. We were the same with the bowling, New Zealand Bowls tournament, and we were going to cart water with the tankers, the fire brigade to flood the greens and all that stuff. So, and I know it's not the right thing to say, but occasionally a bit of adversity brings communities a bit together, and what is important. And that fire truck and the water and all that. So we just want a fair bang for our buck. And I go along with exactly the contractors aren't providing what we're doing. And the monopoly of the size of those businesses, they should be dragged over the coals one way or the other. It's just not good enough. It wouldn't happen if you build in your own house, and we shouldn't have to put up with it out here either, especially we're pretty basic community and pretty resilient, but we don't need to be pushed to the side. And that's my report.
Got to go back to that regional council meeting in Naseby we had.
Yeah.
We were talking to a lot of the members up there.
Yeah.
The elected members.
Yeah.
There was one guy there, he'd been on the council for 16 years. He had a crib in Naseby, and he didn't know where the water came from.
Yeah. And I guess that's always the hard part about
the other guy who was yeah, and that's the thing. They come out, I said, it's a regional council for a reason. I said, it's not the Dunedin. They all live in Dunedin, and they come out here and they go.
Yeah, and I guess something like 80% of the Targa Regional Council work is done in central Targa, but the main office is there. And I won't go into it, we haven't touched on today, but the new Resource Management Act coming out, appointments to a lot of these boards will be made by ORC staff or government that will have no say. And I guess that's one thing that really starting to grind me. And our organisation as council, and in those organisations, turnover of staff, intellectual property gets lost. And it's hard because we know what's in our community. I haven't been to some of the things in Alexandria or Cromwell, the wastewater, so it's hard to understand other people's community. But the information gets there. But definitely turnover of elected members and staff is a very hard thing for anyone to have continuity. But and the ORC's role is massively big, and they, like everyone else, pick and choose what they want. And some of the water plans, and I don't think they know what they can do either. But weeds and pests, and that's wilding pines, wilding willows, wilding rabbits and pigs and deer and wallabies are all part of their mandate, and they just haven't loaded their pack full of enough goodies to handle it all, and all the staff. And we're all going to be in that same boat. Our staff churns too much at council too, and then you lose it. And that's market. You know, we get some great people, we lose some great people. It's tough.
I just felt that they were totally off the ball as to anything in the regions. They just like anything they'd been told don't take offence by their staff.
Yeah,
was they took it as gospel.
Yeah, and the first thing I said to the new CEO, I said, you've got to make sure we're very careful that they're mandated from the elected representatives of the community, not just driven by staff. And some of them are out of their comfort zone themselves, and that's hard. It's hard for all of us. But I don't, I think some of them are, and some of them stand for this. Our communities, I'm sure, stand for the benefit of our community as a whole. Some of the people on the other stuff are a green movement or a movement one way or the other, or anti-farming or anti-water or anything like that. So I think they've got a lot of learning, and that's the hard part where things move so quick, is where they can skill up to what they're actually representing. What?
Right, thank you, Stu. Could I have someone move those members' reports, please? Mark Harris, second, thank you. Duncan Howell, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Governance report.
A couple of sets of minutes from the Arts Council and then there's
Oh, yeah. No one got to the Arts County meeting, did they?
No, I've got my apology, and yeah, I confirmed that Tuesday.
Yeah, so we just got the Arts Council one, have we?
I think see a couple from the Arts Council and it's the same.
Pedro School. We asked what's happening with the Pedro School.
It's waiting on staff to come back with a report from the board about a variation of lease for the occupancy of the schoolhouse stuff. Our resources are rather stretched at the moment, aren't they, Linda? So money's coming in to pay for the costs going out. So
Is that still with the dairy farm?
yes, yep. And Tiaki, of course, have got the license to occupy. So they're doing their thing on the back part of the section, and there's still an area there where the playground is for the public to go in and utilise. So yeah.
All right, can I also move that report be accepted, please? Becky Kilby, seconded, Duncan Howell, all those in favour? Aye, against? Carried, thank you. Thank you very much. The date of the next meeting will be the 11th of May. With the move to go into.
No,
there you go.
It's just the end of the meeting.
That's the end of the meeting.
Cool, go home.
Thank you very much, everyone. So it's PT time. For about an hour possibly.